Let's go! One thing. What is the one thing that scares you the most about the LSU defense? New defensive coordinator Bo Pelini has a tough task. So much talent from last year's team is gone. Go ahead, let me know what you think in the comment section. What is the biggest issue ahead of us? At the end of the video, I'm actually going to give you the real question, the one question that LSU's defense has to answer. We just did an episode on our Tyler Shelvin deep dive. It's not about losing one player, it's that LSU is losing a lot. So yeah, personnel does scare me, but let's be honest, LSU has more than enough talent to replace it. Personnel is not my biggest issue. I mean, heck, just the year before, LSU lost Devin White. This last year, they had two linebackers step in, fill the role, and both get drafted, one of which in the first round. We have Derek Stingley Jr., who's back, and then Jacoby Stevens is back, and then, up front, LSU's going to be pretty strong. I like Jacoby and Guillory and Jaquelin Roy who came in. And what about the new scheme? Bo Pelini's 4-3 defense. Out goes Dave Aranda with this 3-4. Dave Aranda, his first 2 years at LSU, was the best defensive coordinator in college football. Year 3, he was also pretty good. And in year 4, this past year, everyone made a big deal about Dave Aranda not being as good as he once was. We have dedicated an entire episode to why that's kind of true and why that's not. LSU's defense was actually just as efficient as the defenses the year before. They just had to play more snaps because, the LSU offense scored more points, and they also scored faster. Let's actually talk about Bo Pelini. What is he going to do defensively? Well, we don't know. Historically, though, first-year defensive coordinators in the SEC have actually been pretty well at the major programs. So yeah, I don't think this being a new scheme is a bad thing. In fact, I think it's a good thing because offenses don't have a full year of film of what of what Bo Pelini's going to do this next year. Schematics, yeah, he's going to blitz, but the defense is going to be far more basic. Whereas Dave Aranda played that three-man front, would often bring pressure from everywhere. It is going to look a little bit different. Okay, what about the schedule? Yeah, does LSU's opponents scare you all that much? No. Think about it this way. In the SEC, which you're only playing SEC teams this year, look at LSU's schedule. A common Power Hour LSU theme, and my diehards know all about it. College football is not only how it's not only how good you are, but how good your opponents are on the schedule. And it's not only that, it's when you play these games. So yes, LSU's defense does lack depth, but I cannot repeat this enough. It is so huge that LSU does not have to play back-to-back opponents in back-to-back weeks that are top 10 recruiters. So there won't be a gauntlet where you have to play Auburn and then Alabama the next week. Yes, they do play those two teams back-to-back, but there's a bye-week sandwich between it. So yeah, the schedule itself is very favorable to LSU. But you look at it, half the teams on your schedule, actually more than half of your teams, have volatile quarterback situations and new offensive coordinators, which means they haven't had much time to mesh. So the schedule itself doesn't concern me. We've discussed personnel. We've discussed coaching. We've discussed scheduling. Now let's actually get into the things that actually concern me. And it's not the secondary. I actually like LSU secondary this year. Any secondary with Derek Stingley Jr. is going to be one of the best secondaries in football. I think Mo Hampton's going to be a breakout star. There is a reason why I had him as my number one non-Stingley player on LSU. And then at linebacker, well, linebacker's always kind of been plug and play. I don't see why Jabril Cox and Damone Clark won't be the same way. Now that other linebacker position in the 4-3, is it going to be Micah Baskerville? What about Antoine Sampa? One of the new guys, Josh White? Who knows? But historically speaking, that's not really been one of the tougher positions to play in an LSU defense, because you normally have a pretty stout defensive line playing in front of you and a very reliable secondary playing behind you, and oftentimes you're playing alongside tackling machines. So, you look historically, you can have some solid players play that position. I mean, I look back at even a Luke Sanders from that 2007 championship team. Wasn't incredible, but goodness, he was a really good player. So, yeah, I think LSU's going to be fine at that position. LSU's going to stop the run. LSU's going to be very tough to beat deep. What is this thing that concerns you? Well, it's a thing that concerns every defense in the modern era. Can you generate pass rush? I get it. It's probably the toughest thing to do in football, which is get to the quarterback. There's a reason why all these defensive ends, yes, 25 defensive ends make north of $10 million a year, whereas 4 tight ends do. So, yeah, it's the money position. In football, it's about your quarterback and who can get to the other team's quarterback. And LSU lost their best pass rusher in Kayvon Chaisson. He was a first-round pick for a reason, but there's a little bit of truth that LSU's not going to miss him all that much. He had 6.5 sacks last year, which is a good number, not a spectacular number. Remember, yes, LSU was top 5 in the SEC in sacks, but the defensive line had plenty of time and opportunities to get to the quarterback. LSU was playing with a lead a lot. So the fact that LSU didn't get more sacks is a little bit concerning. And then on top of that, take a look at the actual numbers from LSU's sack masters. 6.5 sacks led the team. The next highest was Jacoby Stevens with 5 sacks. And then Damone Clark, who is now a starter, 3.5 sacks. And then Patrick Queen with 3 sacks. Only one of those players is an actual pass rusher, which is, of course, Chaisson, who's now out the door. The highest number of defensive line sacks was Neil Farrell, who also had 3. Well, he's sitting out this year. So, what changes from a 3-4 to a 4-3? Well, if Bo Pelini's not going to be as exotic of a blitzer, that means you're going to trust your front 4 to get home. So, who's going to be the guy? I mean, is it going to be Trevez Moore, Andre Anthony? You had Justin Thomas transfer to UAB this offseason when, obviously, true freshman B.J. Ojolari's been making a lot of noise. You also have Phillip Webb coming in, who's also going to be a part of that equation. Ali Gay, the JUCO transfer, wearing the number 11 jersey. I love it. Could he be the guy? I don't know. It's a tough question to answer because there's so many unknowns here. Like, I even brought up Eric Gilbert as a potential pass rushing option because his defensive line film is pretty nasty. I don't know. I go back and look at some of these 4-3 defensive ends. I was shocked that Jamarie Roscoe didn't have more sacks than he did. Obviously, Daniil Hunter, in his final year, this guy's one of the best defensive ends in the NFL. Daniil had 1.5 sacks at LSU. So, what does this mean? Well, This is where Ed Orgeron is really going to have to earn his money. He obviously got a huge raise from winning the national championship, and that's well-deserved. He's already established himself as being one of the best defensive coaches in all of college football. But he did lose some key assistants that went to Baylor with Dave Aranda. And let's be honest, Ed Orgeron's actually done a pretty good job developing talent up front. Because now you got to develop those guys up front to be not only maulers against the run, but dudes that can get to the quarterback. And obviously, Ed Orgeron's defensive line track record is better than pretty much anyone else. Let's see what happens here. Let's see if LSU can find an answer to get to the quarterback. You know, it's true. Sacks don't necessarily have to happen for you to have a successful pass rush. Can you collapse the pocket? Can you get your arms in a passing lane? You just gotta do something. So that's my biggest concern, because last year, with Dave Aranda, against Texas and Alabama in particular, he could not get off the field. Boom! Boom, boom, boom. Let me know if you agree with me. The biggest concern, LSU needing to find pass rushers. Let's have a discussion in the comment section. What is your biggest concern? Let's go. Subscriber shout out. It's Luca Floofer. Our Derek Stingley Jr. episode last week. Let me just say this. I'm happy you guys stuck with me in the vacation angle. That was kind of cool, though. Would you like more laid-back videos? So, Luca, for Derek Stingley Jr. to win the Heisman, he's going to have to step it up in the return game. Totally agree. And as of right now, Ed Orgeron has to make a decision. You know, Derek Stingley Jr. is by far your most valuable defensive player. Is it worth him returning punts? I mean, Trey Palmer, who just lost out on the starting job at receiver, actually returned a punt for a touchdown last year. Why not give Trey that role? So, you know, it's a good question whether or not Sting is going to be the punt returner. And here's the thing, my boy Derek made this point. So shout out to you, DG. And look, people, okay, you know I don't ask for much, right? I need you to boost these subscriber numbers. Let people know about this channel. Share the video. Do whatever. I need your help to get to 400 subscribers before the year began, because I said that was the number of subscribers I wanted to get to before we started doing live streams where we can hang out with each other on live, and I might just start it. But anyway, subscribe, because I want to start doing live shows where I can interact with you in real time. It's Power Hour LSU. Boom.